The Ravens season has been a roller coaster, and as we dive into the latest updates, the reality of their struggles is becoming painfully clear. Going into the game against the Steelers, the offensive line was already under scrutiny, and John Harbaugh's comments didn't inspire much confidence initially. There was talk about giving certain players more time to prove themselves in the rotation, but by Monday, that plan seemed to vanish. The rotation wasn't going to change. And while there was optimism that practice squad signings like Lake and Tomlinson might inject some life, the reality is that the offensive line remains the team's Achilles heel. Expectations were already tempered, but when the line continues to falter in critical games, the consequences are hard to ignore. It's difficult to overstate how much pressure falls on a quarterback like Lamar Jackson when the line cannot hold its ground. And the result is predictably frustrating. The national attention surrounding the offensive line has grown, and not always for the right reasons. Analysts and former players have commented on the disjointed play, pointing out that certain linemen seem to operate as if they're reacting blindly, rather than following the game plan. Watching them struggle on screen is as embarrassing as it is concerning, and it casts a shadow over the rest of the offense. For a team with championship aspiration, having an underperforming line is a major roadblock, and fans can't help but feel disappointed. The Ravens coaching staff, the personnel department, and the players themselves all have to acknowledge the reality. This is a unit that is failing when it matters most, for weeks remain. And if the offensive line cannot elevate its play, there is little hope of salvaging the season. The loss to the Steelers was a stark reminder of how delicate the Ravens' playoff hopes are. With only 2 wins in division play against a rival that sits at 3-1, the road to the postseason is steep. Every game from here on out carries immense weight, and it's not just about winning. It's about showing that this team can compete against top-tier opponents. The inconsistencies on offense, the slow starts, and the inability to protect Lamar Jackson have all contributed to a season that feels more frustrating with each passing week. The addition of practice squad players like Lake and Tomlinson might offer some hope, but they are not a cure-all, and the challenges of keeping Jackson upright against elite defenses remain. Meanwhile, opponents like Aaron Rodgers were able to operate freely, remaining untouched in the pocket and moving effortlessly to make plays. Watching a seasoned quarterback play without pressure while your own star struggles to stay upright is a bitter pill to swallow, and it emphasizes just how far the Ravens need to go to fix fundamental issues. Baltimore's struggles are compounded by a series of missed opportunities and inconsistent play. Games against Cincinnati and Pittsburgh have highlighted how turnovers, missed assignments, and slow starts can quickly turn competitive matchups into lopsided losses. The Ravens' defense has fought valiantly, but even their efforts cannot fully compensate when the offense cannot sustain drives or protect its quarterback. With division rivals gaining momentum, the team's margin for error has shrunk dramatically. Every snap matters, and each misstep only widens the gap between where they are and where they need to be to compete for a playoff spot. On the offensive side, matchups are becoming increasingly important. The Bengals, with Joe Burrow back in form, present a significant challenge. Burrow's precision, combined with a roster capable of exploiting weaknesses in coverage, forces Baltimore to account for every defensive alignment and every potential mismatch. Without key receivers like T. Higgins, the Ravens must adjust their strategy while still attempting to pressure a quarterback who excels under duress. Even with Jamar Chase in the mix, defenders like Marlon Humphrey have struggled, and the secondary must step up to mitigate the advantage that elite receivers and quarterbacks provide. Blitz packages are a necessary tool, but they come with risks, particularly against quarterbacks who are adept at navigating pressure. Sending extra rushers can force errors, but it can also leave vulnerabilities in coverage if not executed perfectly. The offensive line's inability to generate consistent pass protection directly impacts the defense's effectiveness. If the line cannot hold, the secondary has no chance to execute their assignments. Over an extended period, coverage breaks down, receivers find gaps, and quarterbacks like Burrow or Allen exploit every inch of space. Baltimore's challenges in this regard were evident in previous games, where even when blitzes were applied, the pressure failed to reach the quarterback in time, allowing critical completions. In contrast, when the line gives the quarterback time, it magnifies every flaw in coverage, exposing weaknesses that opposing offenses are eager to exploit. The Ravens' pass rush, while improved with players like Draymond Jones, is still limited in depth and consistency. Injuries, roster changes, and strategic decisions have left gaps that cannot be ignored. Special teams and other supporting units, while important, cannot compensate for these structural issues. The team's performance depends on every component functioning at a high level, and the offensive line has been a recurring obstacle. Fans have witnessed promising moments, crushed by breakdowns in protection. And while flashes of brilliance exist, they are overshadowed by the systemic challenges that continue to plague the team. The ripple effects are felt throughout the organization, from coaching decisions to personnel evaluations, leaving no one untouched by the ongoing frustration. Baltimore's matchup against Cincinnati illustrates the delicate balance required for success. The Bengals' defense has shown moments of vulnerability, but Burrow and his supporting cast have proven capable of exploiting weaknesses with precision. The Ravens' defense must create opportunities through pressure and turnovers, yet the margin for error remains minuscule. Without consistent offensive production and reliable pass protection, the team is forced into a reactive mode, playing catch-up rather than dictating the pace of the game. The narrative of the season, marked by inconsistency and missed opportunities, underscores the importance of every individual contribution and the need for structural improvement. Across the board, the season's trajectory, while not entirely doomed, is defined by the interplay between talent, execution, and strategy. The Ravens have shown they can compete at a high level in bursts, but sustaining performance across all phases of the game remains elusive. Key matchups, particularly against teams with elite quarterbacks and skilled offensive players, demand precision and cohesion that has been inconsistent this year. Fans and analysts alike are left dissecting plays, evaluating rotations, and speculating about potential adjustments. Yet the underlying issues persist: offensive line performance, quarterback protection, and the ability to execute under pressure remain central themes that will determine whether the Ravens can salvage the remainder of the season, or if these struggles will continue to define their narrative. As we shift focus to the Bengals, the storylines become even more compelling. Joe Burrow's return to form has been a game-changer for Cincinnati, and his presence on the field elevates every facet of the offense. After a brief period of adjustment, Burrow has regained his rhythm, connecting with his receivers with precision and forcing defenses to respect every option on the field. Jamar Chase, in particular, continues to be a nightmare matchup for Baltimore. His ability to exploit coverage, find soft spots in zone schemes, and make contested catches consistently puts the Ravens' secondary under enormous strain. Even defenders with experience and skill, like Marlon Humphrey, have struggled to keep pace, and the addition of supporting players such as Tanner Hudson, who can make one-handed catches in tight coverage, only complicates matters. Every snap demands awareness and execution, and the Ravens cannot afford lapses in coverage. If they hope to contain a high-powered Bengals offense, offensive line performance will be the key determinant in this matchup. Cincinnati's line has been more resilient than many anticipated, allowing Burrow to operate effectively while limiting sacks and pressures. This stability has been critical for their offensive success, especially when facing blitz-heavy defenses like Baltimore's. The Ravens will likely increase their aggressiveness with a variety of blitz packages, aiming to disrupt Burrow's timing and force mistakes. However, the risk is significant. Blitzing against a quarterback of Burrow's caliber often results in open receivers and big plays if the pressure fails to reach him quickly. This delicate balance between aggression and discipline will define Baltimore's defensive approach and determine whether they can generate the stops they desperately need. Without consistent pressure, the secondary is left to cover for extended periods, creating opportunities for Cincinnati to exploit even minor defensive breakdowns. Meanwhile, Baltimore's offensive challenges persist. Protecting Lamar Jackson remains paramount. Yet the offensive line has struggled throughout the season to provide consistent support. Without reliable protection, Jackson is forced into hurried throws or scrambles that fail to fully capitalize on his skill set. The addition of practice squad players and roster adjustments offers some hope, but the underlying issues of communication, coordination, and technique continue to limit effectiveness. Jackson's athleticism and decision-making can mitigate some pressure, but he cannot single-handedly overcome systemic deficiencies along the line. The result is a team that must play cautiously, avoid turnovers, and rely on explosive plays from their skilled players to remain competitive in high-stakes matchups. Turnovers have defined the Ravens' season in many ways. Critical interceptions and fumbles have shifted momentum in multiple games, underscoring the importance of ball security and situational awareness. Against a team like Cincinnati, even a single turnover can be the difference between a close contest and a decisive defeat. The Ravens' ability to manage these risks will be closely monitored, as their margin for error is minimal. Both the offensive line and skill positions must execute flawlessly to create scoring opportunities, without exposing Jackson to unnecessary danger. Meanwhile, the defense must capitalize on any mistakes by Burrow or his supporting cast to shift momentum and provide the offense with manageable field positions. Cincinnati's high-powered offense presents unique challenges, particularly in the passing game. With receivers like Chase, capable of winning one-on-one matchups and exploiting defensive lapses, the Ravens' secondary faces a daunting task. Coverage must be disciplined, and communication among defenders must be flawless to prevent breakdowns. Any hesitation or misalignment can result in explosive gains, putting additional pressure on the Ravens' offense to respond quickly and effectively. The interplay between pass rush and coverage will be critical, as sustained pressure on Burrow can disrupt timing and force errors, while failure to reach him allows Cincinnati to dictate the pace of play and control the game's flow. The narrative of this matchup also revolves around individual performances. Players like Marlon Humphrey, Trayvon Mullen, and the linebackers must rise to the occasion, making key plays in coverage and contributing to a pass rush that can keep Burrow off balance. On the offensive side, Jackson must find opportunities to exploit mismatches, utilize his legs when necessary, and connect with his receiving cores in critical situations. Every decision, from route adjustments to protection calls, carries heightened importance in a game of this magnitude. The margin for error is razor-thin, and execution in high-pressure moments will likely determine the outcome. Beyond the X's and O's, the psychological aspect of the game cannot be ignored. The Ravens enter the matchup under immense scrutiny after recent losses and offensive struggles, while the Bengals carry momentum from Burrow's resurgence and the confidence of a roster capable of exploiting weaknesses. Maintaining composure, staying aggressive, and executing the game plan under pressure will be critical for Baltimore, particularly when facing a team that thrives on capitalizing on mistakes and extending drives. The mental toughness of both teams will be tested as they navigate the highs and lows of critical plays, momentum swings, and the demands of a high-stakes division matchup. Special teams also play a subtle but significant role. Field position, timely returns, and accurate kicking can shift momentum and create scoring opportunities, particularly when the offense faces challenges sustaining drives. In close contests, these plays often make the difference between a win and a loss, and both teams must execute with precision to avoid giving the opponent an advantage. The interplay between special teams, offense, and defense creates a dynamic environment where preparation, awareness, and execution across all phases of the game are essential. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. Whispers turned into a small earthquake around the league this afternoon, as talk spread that the Baltimore Ravens pulled off a move no one saw coming. According to murmurs drifting out of team circles, the front office quietly secured a surprise reinforcement while abruptly parting ways with a well-known veteran, leaving insiders scrambling to piece together what triggered such a jolt. Sources close to the situation describe a sudden shift inside the building, as if something had been brewing behind closed doors for days. The unexpected signing, still wrapped in a layer of mystery, has been portrayed as a strategic response to internal concerns about depth and late-season durability. Those who claim to have witnessed the early interactions say the newcomer arrived with a certain energy, the kind that turns heads during the first stroll through the locker room. On the other side of the story is the veteran who, until recently, was considered a steady presence in the Ravens structure. His release has fueled speculation ranging from a simple cap maneuver to whispers of philosophical differences with the coaching staff. One person familiar with the atmosphere described the moment as quieter than it should have been, suggesting that the departure caught even some teammates off guard. What's drawing the most attention, though, is the timing. The Ravens have a reputation for calculated moves, but this one carries a sense of urgency. Analysts are already debating whether the new addition signals an impending adjustment to the team's identity or merely plugs a temporary hole. Some believe the front office may have identified a market inefficiency just waiting to be exploited. Others think this is a signal flare, a message that no roster spot is sacred. Fans have flooded social media with theories constructing narratives that range from bold genius to chaotic improvisation. The truth, however, remains somewhere inside the thick walls of the team complex, where the coaching staff is said to be evaluating how quickly the fresh arrival can be integrated. If this rumble proves anything, it's that the Ravens are far from settling into routine. The shakeup has injected an unexpected electricity into the season storyline, and all eyes now turn to how the mystery signing will fit, and whether the shockwaves from the veteran's exit have only begun to spread. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.